pleasure of answering.
Yeah.
Okay, so once again, thank you very much, and let's go into this topic: how to be a researcher and how to move from a follower of certain research ideas to becoming a leader in research. Well, I'll try to very often refer to my own experience in this. So I didn't put any outline, and we're just going to all the way, just drift away, and let's see. But there will be some sections. First, a little bit about myself, because I will use many examples from my own experience. Apologies for being sort of, I don't want to be selfish, but sometimes when you look for examples or some kind of cookbook, you often refer to, if you've got 40 years of experience of professional life, the best cookbook is your own life sometimes. So that's, you can probably find some. So this is the place I come from. As you can see, this is called St. Petersburg. Now it is Russia. It used to be Soviet Union. And I left Soviet Union in 1990, came to Wales for 1 year. And then after 1 year in Wales, I returned to the place where I used to be a postdoc in the 80s, which is Newcastle. And since 91, I've been in Newcastle upon Tyne. That you see, it's a city of bridges, and I'm sure Amar would remember crossing these bridges. And all these bridges are different. But the beauty of these bridges, it just inspires you to think about how to make bridges in your scientific life, how to make bridges in your professional life, because networking is the key element in our work. So here you can see the colored sort of biography, effectively, of myself, where I put some kind of green time when I was mostly as a follower of ideas coming from my supervisors, then also becoming the kind of junior academic up to the age of roughly 30. And then it was an interesting time. I was very lucky, a postdoc fellow of British Council in 84, 85, which brought me first to Newcastle, where I met some people with whom I later reunited in 91 when I became a lecturer here. Then I passed from lectureship, I became a reader at some point, which is basically equivalent of associate professor. And then in 2000, I got the so-called chair, full professorship, and founded with some colleagues from computer science department, where I spent my first roughly 10 years. We founded the Asynchronous Systems Lab, which was a lab that combined the interests of both electronic engineering and computer science, with the main aim of effectively making asynchronous system design more automated and much better, sort of basically solving one of the challenges. Asynchronous systems, they have many advantages, such as low power, high performance, and so on. Later I will mention them, but the key thing was that they were quite difficult to design. And so most of this time that I spent here in Newcastle is basically how to make productivity of asynchronous design better and better. So in 2002, about 20 years ago, I moved to become head of microsystems group in the EEE department, electrical electronic engineering, where I spent up till now my time being head of this group. So the research career, sometimes the so-called key performance indicators, that this is KPIs that when you put your CV somewhere for promotion, the reason why I put it here is just basically to characterize in some big categories what these indicators are. Typically, you are assessed on how many research papers or books you've published, what type of lectures and tutorials you've given to various conferences and workshops and industrial teams, how many PhD students graduated under your leadership and supervision? How many research grants and where these research grants come from? So in my case, a lot of them came from the Research Council of UK, and some of them came from EU, some came from Royal Society, and last but not least is industrial. Brought quite a lot of funding, and that helps also to maintain a group, because money is important if you want to realize your ideas, not by your own self, but have a group here. Also, an important thing is that I was involved, as I said, in this design automation activities, design flows and tools. My main language of describing systems and circuits was the so-called Petri nets and signal transition graphs, STGs. These are the languages that are based on discrete event representation. They are not like MATLAB, but some of these languages, they can be interfaced with Petri nets and STGs. And we even recently had a paper about Petri nets in basically electromagnetism. So that's quite interesting direction. So the tools that we developed here are called Petrify, and in the last 15 years, it's something called Workcraft. They're used in academia and industry, and there was industrial impact, which was helped by using these tools with companies such as Dialog, Intel, Atmel, and even spin-out companies. This is something that Rishad Shafiq, my colleague, and I, we're both co-founders of the company that will be spun out shortly. We are preparing everything. It will be called Minion.ai. So examples of the research impact are listed here on these slides. I'm not going to boast very much with them. You can just see a little bit that research impact is an important thing. In the UK, we have the so-called REF, which is called a Research Excellence Framework, which runs in this country roughly every 6-7 years. All the universities, all directions, all subjects are being evaluated and put in some sort of league table. And one of the particular criteria for this evaluation, apart from research papers and PhD students, is this so-called research impact. So as you can see, that my impact in the last REF that took place in 2020, it was effectively submission. We had Dialog Semiconductor usage of our tools, and this is what I've mentioned already. These tools helped the company to advance the technology on the basis of the improving the productivity and the quality of integrated circuits. Okay, so that was basically a bit of my career. Now I'll tell you a little bit about my research group. And the research group has this bit of history. So when I joined Newcastle in '91, I brought here this direction of asynchronous computing. And then you see some sort of evolution, and the evolution was essentially the main wheels behind this evolution were scientific curiosity, practical needs, and good engineering, essentially. There are three elements here. And they took us from these initial ideas about designing asynchronous circuits to things like where these asynchronous circuits can be most effective. It's actually so-called power efficient or power elastic design. Then the applications for that were things like implantable microchips and design automation. Further, we generalized this in the domain of energy modulated computing, which went through various areas where the event-driven self-powered systems, a real power paradigm, a bit like people very often use real-time paradigm. We also had real power paradigm. And as you can see, so through some of these years, I should have mentioned also, we were quite involved in the networking on chip, where Amar did some research. So we had several researchers that was quite in the area of sort of webcraft tools and energy efficient communication and high performance. And then lately, we are quite interested in the so-called pervasive AI. So AI everywhere, effectively. Not only in the big data centers and the cloud, but we are trying to propagate AI and machine learning capability to the so-called edge. And these edge devices, they're not just mobile phones, but they are even little sensors maybe somewhere, and even devices that can stick like little intelligent stickers on some objects and so on. So basically, this where you need also this energy autonomy potentially, but also intelligence. As you can see, that is a combination over these years. We developed many fabricated chips. We developed design tools, circuit design methods, and applications for that, and the bunch of companies here where things have found some usage. Okay, so and now you can sort of see that roughly characterized this slide characterizing the size of our group. So this is we've got about 10 people who are academics. They're basically involved in lecturing. We also have senior researchers who are partly involved in lecturing, but they're also involved in helping some of the research active academics here to supervise PhD students. Then we have research assistants whose main job is work on research projects. And we also have very good link with visiting members. Practically, well, two of these members, Daniel and Andre, they're ex-PhD students, so Amar might remember them. But we also have people that are industrial collaborators, David Lloyd and C. Daz. They represent leading UK companies like Arm and Dialog. Okay, so this is something called group esteem. I won't spend much time. You can just see that esteem is some sort of list of things that we are proud of in terms of combined H index, citations, the best paper awards, and I'm sure Amar remembers DATE conference. That was one of the hallmarks of our, and it's very prestigious. The acceptance rate at DATE is still about 20%. And whoever gets a paper there, especially full paper or even short paper, can be extremely proud. So we also have some fellowships, we have funding, and wide range of international partnerships that keeps evolving. And here is only a small sample of that, okay? So basically the group expertise, it has a number of sort of dimensions here. So one dimension is this applications, design automation, and circuit design. So these are basically activities and layers. So if you go from top layer applications, this is almost like a it's kind of levels of hierarchy. You go down or level of abstraction. So you get eventually to the level of circuits and even devices now, whereas here is more like various qualities of all these things that are represented at all these different levels. You can have energy efficiency, you can have energy autonomy, you can have intelligence, you can have reliability and safety, and so on. So that's basically the two dimensions in which you can categorize the research in microsystems. So the ecosystem also of the research consists of research, education, and so-called outreach. So in research, and this is where the leadership can develop. So people become leaders either in research more, or research and education, or maybe in education only. Some of these academics that I listed there, they become senior lecturers, and they're experts in sort of teaching and organizing new programs and so on. So we've got Bieng and Memeng, or Meng and Bieng. Some people prefer this type of names for these degrees. Then we also have master's degrees, that are quite recently they're growing. These two degrees are very popular: embedded systems and Internet of Things, as well as microelectronic systems and devices. Overall, this year we've got about 65, 68 students on both of these degrees, and we're extremely proud that most of these students are overseas, international students. And we also do training courses for industrial domain, and in outreach we have all kinds of public engagement with the government organizations, with some fellowships and mentoring fellows from different places. So as you can see, that's what is what I call its ecosystem. So then important thing is that how we organize effectively our research and education. We have also about 35, we maintain this number, 35 PhD students from diverse backgrounds. They are a regular contributor to major conferences. I think I've already mentioned some of them. And we also have very good dedicated labs. So we have Design Automation Lab, ECAD. We have Embedded Systems Lab, which is more with oscilloscopes and signal generators and even some application setups. We recently, with Domenico Balsamo, he's doing research in sensors for water companies. So basically, he has a little piping kind of system there, which has a water tank, and he does measurements of the water flow by using ultrasound and measuring time of flight, essentially, of sound when the water stream is with high rate or low rate. These are quite interesting applications. Then we have Biomedical Lab, which is led by Professor Degenar. And we've got also generally the lab where we've got postgraduate students and researchers. And there is quite a bit of social life here. I don't know, Omar, you may recognize that we've got Violet here, for example, Benafsaj, real kind of Arabic name. And we have some guys from China. This is Ahmed.
Nabil also from Iraq.
Nabil is there, that's right.
Yeah.
Some of these people, they got back to their countries already. And some of them are still in different parts of the world. Well, for example, Dimitrius is now already in IMEC, just very recently, as you can see. Well, Sergey is still here. And as you can see that we are having good time together.
Yeah.
So our degree courses, apart from those that I mentioned, master's courses, we have also this B-Eng and M-Eng in electronic engineering, and we have electronic and computer engineering. And this electronic and computer engineering is actually, it's growing in numbers. It's becoming more and more popular because generally, if we look at computer science, and we have a separate school of computer science in Newcastle, these people are absolutely overflooded with applications. They have so many students per staff member that it's very difficult for them to manage the teaching load there. So we try to capitalize on that, and we attract some of the computer science applicants to actually say, look, if you've got good mathematical aptitude and you are interested also in physical elements, why don't you go and study not only computer science, but also electronics? So electronics and computer engineering, therefore, is growing in numbers. And these guys here, they find very good jobs everywhere. So as an example here also of recent alumni, you can see some people who, true success stories. Well, you'll recognize your organizer here of this seminar, of this workshop in this list. And Amar probably remembers some of these people. They're in different parts of the world. Some of them are senior engineers in companies. DeLong is now working for Chinese Academy of Sciences. So he is a principal designer of semiconductors. So as you can see, it's quite an amazing sort of set of things. And as you can see, the diversity of our group is quite remarkable. I mean, we've got people from China, from UK, we've got people from India. This is our Russian graduate, Maxim, who is now in Belgium. Andre already mentioned he's working for a company in London. Ioannis, it's a Greek student. He is in Germany now. Agnes is also in Germany. Dipali is back in India. We have sometimes quite mature students like David Berg. David graduated with a PhD a couple of years ago at the age of almost 70. Yeah, so he was a very, you remember maybe Dave, yeah? So a very experienced engineer who had enormous experience in different types of projects. He decided to do PhD when he was already retired from active engineering work. So as you can see, well, we've got obviously Amar here on this list. We used to have people from Saudi as well, Abdullah, and we still have people from the Middle East. Always enjoying them. And here at this point, probably I should say a few words about this wonderful list of alumni from Iraq. So in the middle here was Amar. Before Amar, we used to have Raid, Saad, Sami, Neza. With every one of them, I have special place in my heart because and in my brain as well. As you can see, they're wonderful topics that they studied. Research, network on chip, surface wave interconnects, power thermal management for networks on chip, image compression, MRI filtering for Sami, and then Haider work was nano electromagnetic relays. Then we had Ahmad, who worked on very low power systems for body sensing. And then we used to have here two quite mature students. It was a great pleasure. I remembers them, Noman and Ali. That was terrific work, absolutely wonderful in real-time management in many core systems, really, in parallel systems. And so soon more to graduate. As already before the seminar, I mentioned that we've got Amar Auf, who is here doing research in memristas and analogs for machine learning. So tools and industrial training, I mentioned this tool called Workcraft that was presented at various training events to Dialog Semiconductors company, analog devices, and the tools look like this. So as you can see, lots of kind of graphs that can be used to for modeling, analysis, and even synthesis of logic circuits. So and chip designs, the evolution sort of runs here. Just I didn't put the most recent chips that were later in 2016, and in fact the most recent one came from the PhD on machine learning. I should include it. It's something called Minion chip, which basically is the first generation of chips that will underpin our spin-out company. So various areas where our research has been used, and as you can see, networks on chip are quite important element here. Okay, now this is the characterization essentially of the group activities. And what this group is both socially and scientifically and so on. Now about doing research, few slides. So as I said already, what makes a researcher? There are two important things that make a good researcher. Scientific curiosity. So you need a question basically that drills your mind so that you find, for instance, can I communicate information on chip without actually using wires? Do something. That's what Amar did. I mean, can we communicate? Or for nano electromechanical devices, can we switch here by incorporating at the nano level mechanical switches, not transistor switches, but mechanical switches. Also, curiosity can take you very much in the imagination direction, but you need also connect it with the practical needs. And when you connect it with practical needs, sometimes you look at the practical needs first, and then you think about curiosity. So these things are a bit like practice and theory. They come together, they meet in the middle. And when they meet in the middle, you actually start solving some true engineering challenges here. So basically, my research over the years has been designing microelectronic systems. When I talk to people who are not familiar, who think about, okay, well, they think maybe engineering is about electric cars, maybe it's about spacecrafts, maybe it's about bridges. I'm saying, no, this is not, these are things that you can see with naked eye, all these things. And this is sort of microengineering, or even drugs for cure cancer. Maybe this is not so visible, but this is what people kind of see. But our engineering in electronic design is something that very often people cannot see immediately. When they look at mobile phone, they don't realize that inside actually this mobile phone, you've got almost the universe, the whole universe of things, okay, behind this screen there. So essentially, when I try to explain what I'm doing, saying, well, I'm building little universes, in quotes, of course. So in fact, why the universe? Well, basically because life there can be measured in lots and lots of time units, in zillions of time units, right? So to be precise, I'm helping to build such little universes in semiconductor technologies. And the complexity to make them is enormous. And so, and how to make them that they do what we want them to do. So to paint this picture, let's look at building blocks and numbers here. So we can start with these little transistors here. We talk about architecture of devices. So this is mostly about chemical processes, about physics involved into fabricating this. We also have to understand electromagnetics. Well, what's going on here? We think about electrical circuit theory that is already applied here, but with lots and lots of assumptions. Then we move to the level of logic gates. Then from the, and here we talk about really about the picosecond. So we know more or less what's happening at the stage of 1 single picosecond, if not less than that. Then we move to the timing sort of aspect where we talk about nanoseconds, where we may have some adders and multipliers. Then we move to arithmetic logic units. And then we move to something which is a little bit going into microseconds, where we talk about interactions between processor and memory and buses. And then we move to milliseconds, where we've got programs working for milliseconds. And then we move from milliseconds to seconds and days, when we talk about applications, really. So this is, you see, this is 10 to minus 12 of the second. And here we're talking about thousands of seconds. That's why it's the lifespan is, of this little universe is basically from picoseconds 10 to minus 12 to perhaps applications that run for hours, maybe. So total lifespan is about 10 to 18 switchings. Okay, so that's, and if people say, well, what is the lifetime of the universe? They say, okay, well, it's 10 to 30 to the power of 13 years. Okay, so basically it's almost like what we have to deal with our systems. It's the same kind of level. So the question is, how do we manage all this? Well, it's all about design process. It's all about clever design process and understanding technology, discovering and using the laws of physics, electronics and computing, mathematical modeling, and sometimes we have to invent new mathematics here, develop design tools, with developing design and testing validation methods, We share engineers' expertise and basically constant and continuous innovation. This is how we manage with all this complexity. So then the curiosity is, so in my research, I've been asking many questions over the years. And sometimes these questions I was actually stealing from my PhD students, because they themselves will ask some of these questions. Or we will sit over coffee and we think about, okay, years ago we used to ask questions, how to design logic circuits they don't glitch, or how to design a frequency divider which has the same response time regardless of the ratio. So we divide maybe frequency from gigahertz to megahertz or kilohertz, but we need response from this frequency divider so that there is no carry chain, for example, propagating there. Also, how to construct a logic circuit from its intended behavior under some constraints, time, power, energy, area, or how to reach minimum energy per operation point for a data processing pipeline. Or what is the decay law of a capacitor discharge via digital circuit? If this capacitor is supercapacitor, where we do harvesting energy from the environment, or how to reduce probability of synchronization failure, and so on, and so forth. And then practicality. We should make systems that are autonomous, so they can survive and adapt. Energy frugal. Frugal means that they have to be very, very mean in terms of, live with very small budget of energy, long battery life, and low heat as well. We should not forget that energy is not only about energy consumption, but also energy dissipation, because this is what kills the modern chips, that they become too hot. Also, cost in design. In terms of automation, the engineer's time is very expensive. Or maintenance. So we do maintenance, we put this battery free because nobody has time to send engineer to replace a battery. Or smaller size, capacitors and inductors. We would like to reduce the size of coils, for example, in our DC to DC converters. More reliable, longer time between errors, more secure, hard to attack by hackers, more explainable, which is what happens with the AI today and machine learning. It's not very explainable. How to make it more explainable, to understand why this particular classification on this particular data set, why we get these classes identified. Okay, so because this is what we do. We have to explain why this particular decision was made. Okay, so that was about about doing research. Now, I'll tell you, I'll talk more about leadership. And leadership is how to become a leader, essentially. So on leadership, I should say a bit of philosophy first. So good leaders are usually not taught leadership skills. Very often leadership, it just comes with as people grow, as they develop, and basically it's about developing vision. So ideas and also strong will to realize these ideas. This is what makes good leaders. To discover something, to solve a problem, bring something to a result. It is also more of realism that you cannot do everything on your own. Okay, some people, they just lock themselves in the room and they try to build very complex system, which consists of lots of software writing, processor design, or even sensors and fabrication and so on and so forth. But you have to realize that not everything is really possible on your own. So you need to have a team around you. And if you're lucky, others would follow you. Others would follow you. That's an important thing, that the challenges should be such that people actually follow you. So in fact, being a leader is not a trained skill. It's as I call it, personality trait. And you also, the one important thing is that you must enjoy leadership. So if you don't enjoy leadership, that's something that is probably not your cup of tea. So on the leadership scale, you can be a leader for a team of people working with you. This is, I call it local perspective, and you can be a leader of a community of people even worldwide. This is global perspective. And there are many examples who inspired people. Example here is Oliver Heaviside, is an interesting person from Britain in the 19th century. He wrote many books. Even Maxwell did not write volumes of electrical papers and 3 volumes of electromagnetic theory. I've got them at the back in my office. But he was the loner, on his own. But people books and they understand a vision. People sometimes, especially PhD students, when they join, they somehow think that, okay, their supervisors know everything and the supervisors know where to go, and they will lead them like this leader of this flock of birds, that the guys who are here at the back of this flock, that one can think that these guys, they know, they think that the leader here knows where. Well, in the actual fact, it's not the case. So leaders often have clear vision on specific problems from their own experience, but they don't know how to solve them best. Or leaders sometimes don't even always know problems to be solved in advance. There's something that they say, I don't know what we don't know. Okay, so think about this kind of almost second order type of not knowing. Yeah, so it's, we don't even know what we don't know. And lots of brainstorming almost every day. Coffee room, corridor, pub, walking in the park, chats. This is what is very important. So try to spend time with people, and then ideas, they will actually come out of this. So my role, I have role models in my life. So I should say that when I became a PhD student, I had Viktor Warshawski. He was a pioneer of collective behavior of automata, asynchronous circuits. He led his team over 30 years, and that was tight group leadership. So it's pretty sort of local, I would say. Then Brian Randall is a professor who is still alive, who is still active. He is 86. He is in computer science. He had a wider group leadership. So that was, he led research in computing in the area of concurrency dependability. Then I would say that between this tight group leadership and wider group leadership, there is a medium-sized group leadership. That would, I would say, was David Kinnaman, who was pioneer of research in metastability arbitration. He led microsystem design group before me for 20 years. Then I would say that Steve Ferber is the pioneer of RISC processes, low power, embedded, massively parallel computer, brain on chip even, and he led small groups and big groups, and so these varying size group leaderships, the example. And even the UK electronics community he has led. And if you, it's good to study sometimes the examples of leadership models that I've learned a lot from, where Peter Chung at Imperial College, Simon at Moore in Cambridge, Andrew Brown, and Bashir al-Hashimi. Well, this is, I forgot to update. Bashir is now vice president of King's College of London. So he was dean there of engineering, but recently he became vice president of King's College of London. The person of the Iraqi background, as an amazing role model. So try to find contact with Bashir. I'm sure you will learn a lot. And I'm sure Amar would recommend that.
Yeah.
So, so what is all common in all these cases? The important thing is there was no hierarchy. So no hierarchy between the leader and researchers at all levels. the leader worked with most junior students and had significant global leadership still. So this is the paradox. Sometimes people think that, oh, hierarchy is essential. No, at this point, I will make a step from, or maybe next slide later, I will say what is the difference between a leader and a manager, okay? Management relies on hierarchy, but leadership, hierarchy is extremely detrimental. It's not good. So basically, then at this point, it's important some kind of golden ratio in your team. So it is important to identify fundamental long-term challenges and goals, hypotheses, at almost physical, philosophical level. Okay, it's important to combine a number of types of activities or concurrent threads in research, so that bright people, yet with different traits and talents, would be able to realize themselves and progress in your team. So you basically don't surround yourself only with mathematicians or only programmers or only engineers or only biologists or entrepreneurs. You need a mix. You need a mix of people. These people, then they will help you to build very, very good stuff. So in my three main research threads, I had theory, then this theory led to models and then eventually to tools. Then another thread was functionality. So that was systems, circuits, and silicons, okay? And then the physics of time, power, defects, and faults, where again, models and experiments are needed and characterizations, essentially. And it practically, if you take my PhD thesis from my group that I led, you will see this sort of words there. This would be, some people would develop eventually in the PhD thesis, they will end up with tools. Some people will develop chips, essentially. Some people will develop methods of how to characterize some circuits and systems. Practically every thesis will end up with three key chapters, like with some theory, models, and tools, or some sort of functions, this system circuits, and then chip design, and so on. Okay, so that's very important for leadership. I think that there is I think Basma has a question. Sorry, I have to. So Basma,
I think is at the end of the workshop. Maybe we can postpone the Q&A for the end of the workshop.
Yeah, we've got some questions. So we've got things on the, yeah, maybe we'll postpone these things. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's better. Yeah, to be at the end of the workshop. Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the workshop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amar. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on then. So now, as I said, that I promised that I will say something about management. So don't confuse the leadership and management. It's almost like if you go to a company, you will see in companies, for example, CTO, Chief Technical Officer, or Chief Scientific Officer. These guys are usually leaders. They're usually leaders. You will also find managing director. A managing director would be more about management. This is a different, for the success of the company, both elements are important. Both elements are important. And early on, you should realize what are you better kind of suited for. Would you like to become more a leader of research or academic activities, or even technology leader, or you would like to be a great manager? And that's very important. So especially if you want to be effective on reaching the target. But this talk, really, I'm not talking about project or team management. I could probably talk a little bit, but I'm not sure I'm a good manager. And I'm sure that Amar, you understand what I mean here. Yeah, so I should have to confess here that as a manager, I'm probably not so good. Although I am organizing certain events, which require, but I prefer leadership aspect of these events rather than management. Okay. So with my own experience is that it basically covered a period of 91 till now. So it's almost 30 years at Newcastle. It's a good sample to analyze. Sometimes I sit sort of in a good evening and think about what did I do in those 30 years? What can I do in the next, hopefully, 10 or 20 years to go? So I had an early academic career in Russia from 1982, which was also a good experience, as I worked with the brilliant researchers and saw some leadership examples. In my part of this career in Soviet Union, I started with supervising 3 PhD students, international students. So one of them was from India. I actually visited him about 4 years ago. He's, gray head and so in the state called Kerala. I had an Iraqi student, Ali Al-Rubai. That was a great experience. And I had Rizek from Syria. So these 3 guys, I started and trained myself a little bit as a supervisor. We had seminars between 3 of us, drinking tea and enjoying discussions in my home, because back in Soviet Union, it was more convenient to meet at home rather than in the university. So, but let's now look at my Newcastle career. Basically, it's 91 to 2, head of VLSI design research group. And the last 20 years, as I said, is the head of microelectronics design and systems group. So the very start, when I started in Newcastle, the very start, 92, 93, I got University Research Council PhD studentship 2 years after becoming a lecturer. That was my first grant where I could already have some money. Then I also built excellent links in Newcastle with a colleague from computing, Maciej Kutny, theory of computing, and also with the Professor David Kinnaman in the electrical electronic engineering. Plus, I developed excellent UK and international contacts in Manchester, Cambridge, in the States, Japan, EU, for which I had some modest travel money from European Union. Then was a period where I started to get more research grants. So 94, 97. My EPSRC, it's a research council of the UK, funding was to be lead co-investigator in some projects. That was one of the first projects where the PIs, so sometimes what happens is that when you're a young researcher and your name is not going to attract funding, what you do is that you effectively co-investigate. Don't push yourself immediately to principal investigate. So that's what, together with another young guy from Bristol, we put as principal investigators senior professors with big vision, big names, and we managed to get early funding here. So lead co-Is, who mostly wrote the proposal, were early career researchers. Then shortly after that, or already as a principal investigator, PI, I had 2 visiting fellowships to build my close collaboration from Italy and Japan. Then in some 3-4 years, by 99, I was leading already 3-4 research grants, and each had about size of 1 or 2 researchers assistants. So that makes you a group around you. Then you can basically do something really good there with this. So then aligned with the UK, EU, and international collaboration. So as a backup, I had steady European funding, small in size, but quite influential. And I partner in a working group where there was some travel money, plus several grants from the Royal Society. Those constantly helped my UK and international collaborations, and combination with this Research Council grant gave me 2 important dimensions: international co-workers and local PhD students and postdocs. And then organizing and PC chairing workshops and conferences was also quite important. Then I had all this, by 1999. I was 43 then, and I had my CV already, such that I felt that I should apply for full professor, so-called personal chair promotion in Newcastle. So I also tested myself. So I had about as you can see, total £720,000 research council. So basically about £1 million I had already where I was mostly PI. So I had about 20 journal publications, 30 conferences, 2 edited books. I built a permanent seminar. So the important lesson here, that establish your long-term seminar. If you want to be a leader, make a seminar and lead it. That's where you are basically bringing up talents in your around you. Okay. So in 2000, went for young talents. I went to Kyrgyzstan. I had a Tempus project. It used to be projects funded by EU. I managed to find really a wealth of talents there. Daniel, Andre, and many others. They came from Ashur, if you remember, Amar. So these guys, because talents exist everywhere around the world. So try to go like that. So and buy multi-site projects is very important. So in this period from 2000, I had many joint projects with other university partners, and these were companies, King's College London, Manchester, Edinburgh, and Southampton. Those are all leading universities in the area of electronic design. Then I had projects with Bashir al-Hashimi when he was in Southampton. We had this EPC grant projects. And you basically build your own network here. And you make also friends for life from this. But always try to identify clearly and maintain your team's role in them. Don't be subjected by somebody else's, some other group. So you are respected in research as a leader if you have a clearly identifiable your own team and your role them. Then people would like to work with you. You have enjoyable discussions, because these discussions are not like somebody from Southampton or Imperial will tell you, oh, well, you in your work, you just have kind of completely misled everybody and so on. So no, they actually help you and advise you on certain things, but they never replace you with what you're doing. And so be part of a bigger community. So I try to follow this brilliant effort of Steve Ferber and a few other leaders when they developed this kind of vision, grand challenges in microelectronic design. So there were 4 grand challenges, batteries not included, silicon meets life, more for less, building brains, and this basically led to other things. So then there were program grants with Bashir, Andre Brown from Southampton, and then I also led one that unfortunately we were just below the cutoff line, something called Real Power. Nevertheless, it was, and then joint grants that help to sustain your groupings. So here I was always trying, sometimes, well, you join somebody else's grant to maintain, help your researchers to carry on. And I was combining with other departments efforts and colleagues from like Sasha Romanovsky or Anthony O'Neill from our school. Also go for personal fellowships. I tried to go once for senior fellowship and reached interview stage. 6 out of 10 were selected, but I wasn't, unfortunately. Again, one of the reasons why I think still I wasn't, because the microelectronic design is something that is not very visible. It's hiding behind applications. And yet it's not so much physics. It's not like quantum computing, which is invisible, but everybody talks about it. So that's the trick is that even if you work in electronic design, try to make it present what is the relevance for solving some societal problems there. But then I was successful with something called Dream Fellowship, And Omar was here when I was having this dream fellowship. So where I combined power electronics, electromagnetism. I even started new seminar here, NEMIC, Newcastle, microelectronic, electromagnetic interest group. And leadership creativity was mostly about that. And as you can see, right. So basically key elements of success. Well, I've got about 2 more slides, and I think I will manage to get within 1 hour. So basically, key elements of success. So build a team where all aspects of talent have a chance to develop and flourish. Build a team both locally at your workplace and globally worldwide. Try to focus long-term on fundamental challenges. For me, asynchronous system research has been a wonderful area, which combined the 3 main threads and different people: computer programming, electronic design, and theoretical analysis. So it is find an area which has elements of programming, circuits, and theory. So something that combines those things. Don't be just limited to one of them. And never be afraid of looking ignorant for new areas, such as questions. Interact with all kinds of people, even undergraduate students, UG students we call them, as equals. Treat them as equals. This will help to spot new talents, because then if they're not afraid to talk in front of you, you may get these talents. Okay, never suppress these, people to talk to you about and even argue with you. Okay, so well, generally, what proposals scored best for me? Research proposals. Low latency asynchronous systems, completely fresh ideas, very focused. Asynchronous design for security, supported by cache by company. Another one supported in cache by a company. And so they were focused, fresh ideas, sometimes those supported by companies. So in most cases, ideas were fresh, crystal clear, and industrial support was evident. These are they score highest this type of proposals. However, challenges sometimes exist and failures are inevitable. So I used to have one grant on global asynchronous elastic synthesis. First version was quite different and was with one partner and involved some physical level, and reviewers didn't believe in that part. Then 3 years later, I resubmitted it with a different partner and industrial partner, and went through. So try to be dynamic. Don't put in the bin your ideas that were potentially good, because they may be actually later in a different context, they may actually succeed. And so be ready to have multiple rejections. It's painful, but having colds and flus, but that's part of the package called your career. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Alex, for this interesting talk. And I'll open now the Q&A. So please, if you want, you can either raise your hand or write your question as you like. Yeah, I think Saad have the first question.
Oh, Saad, hello, Saad.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't. I like your photo with the Newcastle road.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Saad.
I would like to thank you, Alex, so much for this great workshop. Actually, it's a good chance to meet you again after almost 9 years since my graduation from the NCL. It was actually proud to be under your supervision. So happy to be here and I wish this gathering will continue in the future.
Thank you very much, Saad. Also, thank you for. And I'm glad to hear from you. And I hope your career and your work are successful. You enjoy them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Actually, I'm working in the University of Diyala. It's about 40 miles to the north of the capital, Baghdad.
Oh, I see. Diyala. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was a head of computer engineering department. And before that, I was the head of the electronic engineering department. So good work, good job there.
Excellent. Excellent.
Actually, I would like to see you in the other university, maybe online or physically.
I'm looking forward to still visit Iraq, guys, because
Yeah,
this is, you know,
of course.
I've got you. I mean, so good friends for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part
Thank you
of
so
your
much.
global team.
Yes. Part
Yeah.
of my global team. Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Sure.
Thank you, Saad, and good to hear from you again.
Thank you, Saad.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, we have
Right.
now Dr. Muhammad. You may open the mic if you like.
Yeah, hi everyone. Hi Alex. Thank you very much for the delicious plate of practical and experience and academic experience. So thank you very much. And actually, I've got some questions for you. So you clearly put a wonderful path of career that you enjoyed and built over years. But actually, my concern of how to actually always getting the research, if I could say research threads or research methods or what I could say research direction, sorry, that is worthy of winning funding awards.
Well, it's quite difficult to answer in general, apart from sort of showing some examples. But I think that the key point here is to identify these combinational factors that, as on one hand, as I said, that the proposals, for example, that, as I said, scored best, these proposals, they essentially they have to have very clear and fresh ideas. That's important, right? But also you try to identify who needs them. Okay, it's not just say that, well, I've got a very interesting method, for example, to analyze the performance of particular networks or filters and so on. So try to see that somebody absolutely needs them, because very often what happens is that you develop something, then you try to present it to, say, application, and they don't care. They don't care because they've got their own kind of yeah, they've got their own design flow, they've got their own process, they're already successful, like in companies, they're making money already, or people lecturing, for example, you want to integrate new ideas into some course. Well, but they say, well, why do we need it? We don't care, we've got good curriculum already. But then you try to present to them that it in a different form, not that it has some new things. Usually about new things, they don't care. What you present to them is something that why they should think about it in terms of how they can improve what they have. So you think about improving for them, then they would look at it with different eyes. They will say that, and they will start to care. So a minute ago they did not care, but when you present to them that this is actually not because it's new, but because it makes the student, for example, training better.
Mhm.
Okay, students are more successful in the end in finding jobs, or because the company can actually make income out of this,
Mhm.
or the government can also expand it to and sell it to the public better. Then you don't really need to say that this is new. Later on, maybe you will start to discuss the novelties and details of your technology. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Ta-
that's
Yeah, tangible value.
tangible value. It has to be
Yeah.
demonstrated. Tangible
Yeah.
value.
All right, thank
Yeah.
you very much, Alex.
Thank
My
you very
pleasure.
much,
My
Dr.
pleasure.
Mohammed. Now, Dr. Mohammed Asmat, yeah, you can open the mic.
Hi, Amar. How are you? Again,
Hi,
to meet
how are
you
you?
with great workshops. You always fruitful. Alex, thank you so much for this lecture. I was focusing 100% with every single word you said.
Thank you.
I
I hope it
graduate
makes.
from-
I hope it made sense.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I graduate from University of Portsmouth.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Yes, from South. You are in the north.
Mhm.
My specialty was AI. And actually in Iraq, like as we know, the AI is a new and hot area, but still we don't have practical things in our universities or as a professional work. That's why I am looking forward to if there is a way to join any labs, any researcher groups in your teams. Because what we did in the UK, there is a lot of new research we did there, and we published very good papers. But when we come to Iraq, we see some of our topics. We can't translate it in the practical way because we need a new technology, we need a new policies, we need a lot of new things, and then we can actually use what we learned in the PhD or in the master degree. So
Don't
that's
have the
why,
industrial partners.
yes, definitely. So that's why we're looking forward if there is a way, and it's the honor to us to work with a person like you or under your supervision as in lab. If there is any way to, or groups contact, we can enjoy with them. I will be very grateful. Thank you so much.
Right. Oh, thank you, Mohammed, for this. This is an interesting aspect. Amar, do you still have contact with, in context with these comments from Mohammed? I wanted to ask you, do you still have contact with Gaif Taravne?
Yeah, I think I have his email. Yeah, where is he now? It's been a while since I contacted him.
Gaif worked as an RA,
Uh-huh.
and he worked with in our group. He worked also with the Institute of Neuroscience.
Neuroscience, yeah.
It was a very good experience to work with the applications.
Mhm.
And then Gaif, he basically had a company in Jordan.
Mm.
So
Oh, he started. He's back in Jordan now.
he was coming from Jordan back to Britain and then back to Jordan. And they had a very useful, a very successful startup company. And then I think if you can contact Gaif, talk about Gaif's experience in this setting up a company, because company was very much for Jordan basically. And but then he earned such an experience that maybe similar kind of ideas that they would fit with Iraq as well.
Yeah.
Because
How to start up a new industrial line for AI, for example.
It was. I would say it was not. I wouldn't say it was AI company, but it was the company to do some sort of intelligent sales and and now he's got experience and he's helping creating companies. Okay, so that's what you might find quite useful, because AI is the area where you can really think about starting up business. If you know algorithms, generally, if you start thinking that, okay, well, you've got a basic algorithm, but for this algorithm to be successful, sometimes you need techniques like simulated annealing or evolutionary or something like this. Then it's the first call potentially for using machine learning. Then you can think about some sort of co-processing part of the algorithm that you call from the main algorithm into this co-processing. And this co-processing, you start collecting essentially data sets, basically. So you see that these data sets are important, and you try to analyze these data sets with machine learning techniques. That's where people really make good business. And you put students there. You put students, these days, students, you can give them packages for different types of machine learning, different types of neural networks, deep neural networks, convolutional neural networks, reinforcement learning. So you can things, and Python, typically Python is the language. So that's something that is worth doing.
Yeah, I'll try to find his contact and send it to you, Dr. Mohammed. Maybe he will give you some ideas on how to capitalize on your AI project with your teams. I think we have a question from Dr.
Amir.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Hi, Doctor.
Hi.
Hi, Ammar.
Dr. Amir, we work together in the same IT research center. Yeah.
Hi, Alex.
Yeah, go ahead, Doctor.
Thanks a lot. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Amir.
It was a pleasure to listen to your talk today. It was interesting, and I learned a lot from your talk. As Dr. Ammar said, I'm working with him in IT IRDC Center at Al Kufa University. I just completed my PhD and joined my work at Al Kufa University last year. So I finished my PhD at the School of Engineering at the University of Leicester in the UK. My supervisor, he was Dr. Elaine Stoker and Dr. Mai Warrington. Actually, I did my research in developing novel routing protocols in wireless sensor networks. So I did all my work based on experimental, using experimental hardware, which is manufactured by Lebellium company, which is based in Spain.
Right.
Yeah. So my work, as I said, it was like based on experimental work. When I came here, I just faced many problems. As you know, we don't have the hardware that we used in the UK and everything. Now I heard that you are working on something which is developing methods for saving energy in sensors, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm interested in this way because, you know, I'm trying now to mix between sensors and edge computing. You said also something about using AI to consume the power that in edge computing devices. So can you refer me for somebody who's working on manufacturing sensors and developing techniques to consume the energy in sensors?
Dr. Amir,
Dr. Amir, I think we lost the sound. Well,
yeah, we lost the sound.
but
yeah.
I got the message. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would recommend in this area of combining energy harvesting maybe with wireless networks.
Mhm.
I would recommend reading some papers by my colleague Domenico Balsamo.
Mhm.
So I can sort of type
Yeah, in the chat.
Domenico Balsamo, right? There are some, if you Google him,
Yeah.
he did some work. Well, he was in Southampton, and before Southampton, there is an area of it's called transient computing. So it's very much about the energy optimization
Yeah.
in connection with when you do communication and computing, so that
Yes.
you schedule your communication cleverly, so that you work with within the certain budget of power or energy. So there are some energy constraint scenarios, and there are some power constraints. So you cannot go beyond certain level of power. So I recommend, there are 2 or 3 papers that were published in Transactions. I definitely recommend you to look at them.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your help.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Amir. Well, in case if there is no more questions, I have a question of my own. I mean, I'm trying to follow you as a role model, but the challenge in Iraq research environment, there are no research funding. It's difficult to build your team without being the BI of research fund that you have relative, at least, freedom to hire talents, to recruit, to pay for lab equipment, research paper. So it is a kind of challenging here in Iraq. Although for me, I'm trying to build. I mean, I have some postgraduate students. I'm working with some of my colleagues locally and globally. But this is, I think, this is a big difference between the environment in Iraq and in the UK. Without, as Dr. Muhammad said, without industrial partner and without research councils that grant funds for research, it's kind of a little bit of challenge.
Well, this reminds me partly what was before I left Soviet Union. Was this the end of the 80s? Was less and less possibility to interact with industrial partners there, but the academic links were quite important. So I think that the important thing is that you guys need to establish some sort of interest groups or some form of network. These days, especially that when we've got this Zoom and Teams, you don't even need travel money these days. All you need is to start. I mean, I think that this workshop that you're doing, Amar, is a great thing. Try to do it at different scales. Try to perhaps, one thing is do it more general type of workshops. But try to do the workshops where you focus on a particular group of people, or a particular topic, or a particular group of people from different universities, like with Saad, for instance, from Diyala, and so. So try to see how you can develop some sort of vision, common vision. And some sort of grand challenges for Iraqi research in computer engineering, for example, right? Try to identify these key topics
Mhm.
and try to see if behind each of these topics you will have one particular leader, or
Yeah.
maybe two leaders, or it's
Mhm.
good always to have one leader,
Mhm.
right? This
Mhm.
could be related to not just purely research, it could be some sort of could be also with some development of graduate programs, right?
Mhm.
It could be related to some sort of impact generation, right? Potentially somebody you could take who could perhaps lead on developing startup companies or something like this. So
Mhm.
each of these, sometimes what our the leaders here, they on a more administrative side, they like this idea, they call them task and finish groups.
Mhm.
So task and finish groups we have in our discipline where we care about advancing teaching programs. There is one task and finish group, and there is a leader champion there. Then there is a task and finish group on recruitment of students. There is a task and finish group on commercialization and industrial links. So try to create these task and finish groups that start or having maybe once a month, or maybe in the beginning could be even more frequent. They meet on Zoom and they basically develop some sort of bullet points, some actions essentially, set the targets and see how you can achieve these targets. So that would be my advice, really.
Yeah. Sounds.
And see how people and some people, I'm sure that in terms of their career development, they will be quite interested
Yeah.
in taking this up.
Yeah. Yes. It's basically it's very good advice. Thank you very much. We'll try to build these task groups and try to locate some motivated people and locally and at least in the regional area inside the country or outside. And
absolutely.
try, as you said, try to brainstorm ideas and
yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for this very fruitful talk and for taking the time again out of the UK sun, which is very rare. Yeah. So, and thank all for the participants, which is almost 70, I noticed. And I hope this is
this is remarkable participation. I really I'm proud of that.
Yeah, thank you very much again, and hopefully we'll have you again in a different talk and different workshop in the near future.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much. I'm typing my thanks, and all the best, guys.
All the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you.
See you.
Bye.
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 Yeah, bye.
I'll send the record to everybody for this workshop.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.